First tracks are the coveted, cherished, and committed signatures pursued by skiers and snowboarders alike. First tracks are reason for the early morning alarm clock that disturbs a heavy winter slumber. They provide the courage to pull back the covers and brave the frigid temperatures outside the comfort of a warm bed. They silence the voice that says, "Stay in bed, relax, the mountain will be there tomorrow." But what if it isn't? What if our first tracks become our last? The mountains will remain, but their snow-covered peaks will melt from white to brown. As this winter's final snowflake evaporates back into the atmosphere, the question remains, will the snow return again?
Mountains are barometers of climate change. This winter, skiers and snowboarders across the globe loaded onto chairlifts with feelings of doubt, angst, and worry. How many more mornings will they be able to chase these elusive first tracks? Chapped lips refuse to talk about the end of the winter, the end of a sport so many hold near and dear to their hearts. Helmet-covered ears still truly appreciate the quiet stillness of falling snow. The love of skiing and snowboarding extends into every fiber of one's being with the hopes of becoming contagious. It is this that can affect change.
The phrase global warming conjures up images of far-off events, such as polar bears standing on lonely melting icebergs and rapidly shrinking a rainforest. In today's warming environment, the symptoms of climate change are clear. Shorter winters with late snow accumulation and early melt, the compromised ability to make machine-fed snow, decreased average snowpack, and fewer annual ski visits. Winter is on borrowed time.
The United Nations Environment Program has identified the ski industry as one of the most vulnerable to climate change worldwide. As average winter temperatures rise, resorts struggle to keep chairlifts turning and the money coming through the ticket window because of the shrinking duration of the ski season.
As resorts began to shut down their chairlifts for the last time this season, skiers and snowboarders put away their winter gear with a burdening apprehension. What will next season hold? This winter was bad, but next season could be even worse.
Since 1950, more than 600 U.S. ski areas closed for reasons that include decreased snowfall. Only 302 new ski areas have opened across the country in that same amount of time. In the last 50 years, the average length of the ski season decreased by an entire week. Worldwide, nearly 95% of ski areas rely on snowmaking to offset the lack of natural snow.
Snowflakes are their own distinct type of precipitation, formed when water vapor skips the liquid phase and condenses directly into ice. One major difference between natural snow and man-made is that snowflakes are not frozen raindrops but man-made snow is. It might be better to call it man-made sleet.
Because of the bias towards areas with frequent deep powder snowfalls, New Englanders will be disappointed to see that only Jay Peak is mentioned from among the 100 possible resorts. Snow turning into rain, forecast often heard by frustrated skiers in the northeastern United States.
You do not have to be a climate scientist to understand the impacts of climate change. All you have to do is strap on a pair of skis and get out on a mountain. The proof becomes obvious. Winters are becoming a bit of an endangered species.
But contrary to the predictions of the climate models, recent winters, two of the most recent large northeast blizzards being February 8, 2013 and January 27, 2015, have produced some historic snowstorms and seasonal totals in the Northeast. Once moderate snowfalls are now blockbuster snowstorms instead, pushing both storm and seasonal snow totals higher.
These snowfalls shut down cities and brought heavy flooding to coastal areas of New England, carrying the imprints of climate change as researchers get better at detecting the fingerprints of global warming, even from snow. Clearly, the frequency of extreme or historical snowfalls is increasing in the Northeast. So are the models wrong? Does climate change actually result in an increase in snowfall?
On January 16, 2015, NASA and NOAA announced 2014 as the warmest year in 130 years of temperature records. According to Kevin Trenberth, senior scientist in the climate analysis section at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, warmer atmospheric temperatures translate into higher moisture content. This can fuel stronger midwinter storms. Deniers like to use examples such as Boston's record-breaking snowfall this past winter as an indication that climate change does not exist. In reality, these large midwinter storms serve as proof that the climate is changing.
Record warm sea surface temperatures off the northeast coast are fueling moisture that is mixing with cold Arctic blasts, much to the delight of ski resorts and other winter recreation enthusiasts. As a result, there was about 10% more water vapor in the atmosphere. Approximately half of that extra moisture was due to climate change. Every 1 degree Fahrenheit difference in temperature produces about 4% more moisture.
Sea level rise off the east coast is already expected to be about 8 inches or more by the end of the century. Flooding is going to be a major issue for the Cape and New England, said Bernadette Woods-Plackey, a meteorologist at Climate Central. Scientists, zeroing in on the causes of individual storms, now believe about 35% of the rain that came down with Hurricane Sandy was produced by climate change. This climate change is making these sorts of storms more common, as much as it is making Sandy-like superstorms and unusually intense hurricanes more common.
If cause and effect are not immediate, it's hard to provoke action. According to Dr. Jim White, professor of geological sciences and environmental studies, and director of the Institute of Arctic and Alpine Research at the University of Colorado, the effects of climate change are felt more than 50 years after the cause. It takes almost 75 years for a certain carbon dioxide level to reflect itself in the atmosphere.
3/4 of the states benefit from these winter sports. However, in the past 10 years, 15 million fewer skiers visit per year. $1 billion has been lost, and 13,000 to 27,000 jobs have already been lost. Climate change could negatively impact 211,900 U.S. workers.
Most resorts have been shy to talk about climate change or address the issue in mainstream media, because talking about a warming planet means talking about the end of skiing, a move that could be detrimental to business and large corporate interests. Also, smaller resorts cannot afford to let environmental principles guide their business practices. They lack flexible capital and must focus on keeping afloat.
Aspen Skiing Company recognized an opportunity that would benefit both parties. Aspen's coal mine methane project works to reduce greenhouse gas emissions produced by coal by capturing waste methane from Oxbow's Elk Creek mine. The project converts the methane into electricity, thus preventing a heat-trapping gas from entering the atmosphere. The project harnesses enough energy to generate 24 million kilowatt hours of electricity annually, enough to power all 4 of the company's mountain resorts. With support from POW, resorts like Aspen Skiing Company are making efforts to reverse the hypocrisy of ski resorts powering their operations with coal, a large contributor to climate change.
Most resorts have been shy to talk about climate change or address the issue in mainstream media, because talking about a warming planet means talking about the end of skiing, a move that could be detrimental to business and large corporate interests. Also, smaller resorts cannot afford to let environmental principles guide their business practices. They lack flexible capital and must focus on keeping afloat.
Aspen Skiing Company is one of the few not-so-shy resort companies, and they claim their number one priority is to use the snow sports community as a lever to drive policy change. In doing so, Aspen Skiing Company joined forces with a coalition of businesses known as BICEP, Business for Innovation, Climate and Energy Policy. This group of like-minded businesses, which includes Burton Snowboards, Ben & Jerry's, and Starbucks, works to reduce risks to winter sports businesses, water resources, supply chains, snowpack, and winter in general.
Within the ski industry, Aspen leads by example, showing other resorts that they cannot reject the consensus of the global scientific community on climate change.
There's no magic bullet to fix this problem, Jim Steenberg. In Loving the Least of These, Addressing a Changing Environment by Dorothy Borse, she states, "Loving God means obeying. This includes caring about what happens to God's creation because God cares about it and because God gave us the job of caring for it. We worship God by caring for His creation. We don't worship creation."
The term stewardship is often used to describe how we ought to think of our relationship to God's creation. The natural world is a precious gift for which we will be held accountable. We hold it in trust for God, but we also hold it for the next generations. In Matthew 22:39, Jesus gave us a second command: love your neighbor as yourself. For us to be faithful in loving God, we must love our neighbor. In Luke's account of the same incident, a bystander asks, "But who is my neighbor?" Thus setting the stage for one of the best known of all Jesus' parables, the story of the Good Samaritan. Loving my neighbor, according to the parable, includes responding to the needs of someone who has been hurt. There are millions of suffering people in the world, and thousands of Christians who offer them assistance. Unfortunately, the realities of climate change mean that those suffering millions may become billions. All of us who follow Jesus will need to respond.
Whether it is a ski resort, an oil and gas company, a rental ski shop, or an individual, everyone has a stake in the game. Many say it is a matter of not what you believe, but how you are going to adapt, proactively or reactively. Tomorrow's ski season relies on today's advocacy efforts. Education is the first stage of activism. Before people can be expected to change daily habits or enact any sort of climate legislation, they must first be informed. According to Gina McCarthy, head of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, one of the best ways to raise awareness about climate change is to get people out on the ski slopes where the impacts are obvious, more intrusive, and clear.
Skiing has the ability of helping people connect with the land in a very personal and passionate way. Days spent carving turns in the snow and enjoying time outdoors with family and friends help remind people of the fleeting nature of winter, the precious and finite reality of snow.
The mountains are the crown of the planet for a reason. Healthy mountains are healthy people. And lately the mountains have been suffering due to our actions on the planet. Connor Rainey of Pinedale.